Hi there, I'm Charlie.
And hello, I'm Todd.
And this is
Tell Me About It. This is the husband and husband team of me, Todd, and my husband Charlie, where we sit down with people that pique our interests and we ask them to tell us about it, whether it's their job, their life, or something cool that they've been doing. We talk to them and find out all the juicy details. And so, Charles, this is our first episode.
Our very first episode.
Are you nervous?
I'm very nervous. My heart is beating very fast.
Just so you guys know, we're sitting in our office, our home
Two
office,
dogs underneath us.
and his heart is racing. There's not an audience here. It's just me and him, and his heart is already
There's
racing.
like 1 million people here right now.
In
We're
your
here in
head.
front of our live studio audience.
One day.
So today,
Who we asking questions to today?
So Todd, I'm going to be asking you questions. And ever since I met Todd, he was always like, oh, hi, my name's Todd and I'm a marketer. And I'm like, oh, cool. I know exactly what that is. So I have no idea what a marketing person does. And ever since I first knew you, I always thought it was like what goes in a brochure, what goes on a billboard, what goes on a card. And you make those decisions like magenta or teal.
Thank you for boiling down my art form into picking colors, magenta or teal.
In my world, you're either like an electrician or you deal with numbers or cut people's hair. So marketing was very new for me. So tell us, Todd, what exactly is marketing?
Oh, so I'm the subject of this episode.
You are
today.
the subject of this.
Okay. Well, first, I mean, what do you think marketing is? Like for me, like when I said it was a marketer, you thought it was what? Just brochures and
I
advertisements?
literally thought like you decide the artwork that goes on stuff and like the words.
Oh, well, that's part of it. But I guess like my job, a lot of people think that, well, first off, you're not the only one, even though you're my husband, you don't know what I do.
Yes.
My parents also have no idea what I do, nor does my sister, nor do most people that just ask me when I talk to them. So anyway, so like, yes, the answer is like, well, I thought you do parties and plan events. Yes, that is part of being a marketer. But for me, like what I tell people is I influence people's decision making on a product. Mm-hmm. So if the company like Apple, you know, their marketing is there to influence your buying behavior to buy a new watch or to buy a new phone.
So dumb that down. Influencing buyer behavior.
I
When he first told me this, guys, I was like, oh, so you prey on people's whatever it's called, impulses.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I like get into your mind to tell you to buy something, basically. And I give you all the things you need and try to convince you to buy. So, yeah. But I'm not a salesman because that's a very different skill set. I'm just the one who kind of sits behind the scenes and creates these campaigns and tactics that can help, again, influence you and have you go buy something. So
Interesting. So I actually Googled the definition of marketing so that our lovely audience could have a general idea of what it is, because I was curious too, honestly. And the definition was the action or business of promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising.
Well, that makes me sound boring, but yeah, I mean, obviously that's correct. But I think the other thing that there's so many facets as a marketer that I can do. And there are those who are strictly event marketers. So those event marketers, yes, they'll put on a large scale event like something at a conference center or stuff like that, but they're also in charge of getting people to that event, like registering and selling tickets. So there's a whole like engine behind an event to get people there and to get people to pay to, either go to continuing education courses or whatever. And then there's people like me who I'm a very specific niche. Do we ever figure out that word? Niche. Niche. Yeah. So in my niche, I'm called a demand generation marketer. So like I said, there's a bunch of different facets to marketing. And as a demand generation marketer, my job is, instead of the sales guys and gals doing cold calls all day long, I reverse that flow where I have the customer call them. And so that's me creating demand for the sales guys so they can just pick up a phone and say, hey, thanks for calling Toys R Us.
So like in a sense, there is kind of a psychology behind people's buying behaviors. Like, is that something that they taught y'all? Is there really like a science or psychology behind people's impulse in buying?
Yeah, I mean, especially, it's really, I mean, it is, I always do say it's kind of creepy the things I can figure out about you. But like as a marketer, there are so many new pieces of software that like heat mapping. So when you're on an email, we have software that I can figure out what you're hovering over, and like for your mouse and cursor, and it actually shows me like it's a red spot or yellow or green, meaning it's, hotter or colder. And I can see, and it's all anonymized though. So it doesn't say like Charlie stayed on this, button for 10 seconds. It just shows me where most people are looking. Based on their cursor movements. And
that's
so
creepy.
Yeah.
I can hear people already. That's against my rights.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. And also because you do sign for those emails to receive them, you've given us permission to anonymize that data. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I like. The colors, definitely. The colors of a website, there's very, very specific reasons why people use those colors. And it could be at different stages of your, what we call a buying journey, where you're either at a consideration stage or you're ready to buy. But yeah, color has a huge deal to do with it, especially whatever industry you're in. So tech space, you're going to see a lot of red, blues, and maybe some oranges.
Is there a reasoning behind that? That color choice? Because I know I've heard this on a Brittany Broski podcast, that they pick red and yellow colors for restaurants because it makes people hungry because they associate them with ketchup and mustard.
Well, I don't know that.
That could be complete bullshit too.
I think that I don't know. It could be, but I know like in general, it's like colors like red are definitely power colors and a strength color. But in the tech space, I'm not sure why, like, it's always been blue. Like, if you look at Dell Technologies, they're blue. Facebook, they're blue.
Meta.
Canon, they're red and black. So I'm not really sure why they picked blue. But, like, in the banking area, you'll see a lot of green, obviously, for money. Money. So, yeah, it's definitely, there are very clear ways of using color and when you use color. And especially like font sizes. There's a clear reason why we use font sizes, whether it's title case, sentence case, all these things. It's easier for a person to read if it's in sentence case and not title case. So yeah, it's all these like little weird nuances that I pay attention to.
So that brings me to a whole new question. Oh, when you say font size, say your target audience is like an optics place. Would you make the font bigger because you know that target audience has trouble seeing?
No. God, so
see, this is why I don't get marketing.
If I knew that depending on the persona or basically the profile of that buyer, if I knew they were 70 years old and they, definitely had very hard time reading things, you may increase the font size. But typically, you never go below 10-point font because people can't read after 10 points. And so you keep that, and then you always try to keep it simple and concise in an email. But just depends on the profile. Like also, if the person I'm talking to is an engineer, there's a specific way to write to an engineer because they like it. Just give me the facts, don't make it fluffy, boom, done. But if I'm talking to let's say a doctor, like my dad, I would use very different jargon and more medical terminology that relates to him. So it just all depends on the persona of how I attack it.
This is very interesting stuff.
Yeah, and when people say like social media companies know a lot about you, they do. Because when you sign in, let's say you sign in with Google, through your Facebook or Twitter or whatever, because you're signing in through Google, now anything that Google can see your movements on your social media platform. So that's why when you say to yourself, why am I seeing all these ads after I leave Facebook that are about buying a lawnmower?
And that always freaks me out because I swear every time I'll have an ad on like a website or something I'm on, and it'll be something you bought.
Yeah. Yep.
And it like I've never even heard of it, never even looked at it, and it's at the house the next day, and I'm like, why is this on my ad? I've literally never heard about this object.
Yeah, and we can go by demographics, but yeah, like if I wanted to do a Facebook ad, there's so much information I can tell about you based on when you fill out those profiles of what music you like, what groups you follow, all those things. I can tell that, and I can be like, well, he's probably a good fit. So like when Facebook introduced Facebook groups, the real reason behind that, at least in my opinion, because I've done this before, is because they wanted these groups to be able to sell advertisers. Because that way, if I'm part of the skateboarding group, I'm able to get to like Tony Hawk's skateboarding company and say, hey, would you want to sponsor ads in this group? This is your target audience. So yeah, it's very scary, but it also helps with personalizing your experience because you don't want to see crap that you don't care about. So, as marketers, we want to make sure you see things and buy things that you like and not dislike. Was that enough? That was a lot, wasn't it? That was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah.
It was definitely interesting information. A lot of stuff that's like really making my head turn.
Interesting information. That's code word for Jesus, Todd.
No. Oh, wow. That's crazy is code for shut the fuck up.
You can't say that. You can't say the F word. We'll get fined by the FCC.
Shut the meow up.
There you go. We'll call the F word is now meow.
So another question I had is, what exactly is a brand? So like when a company, I'm trying to think of like a basic one. Tell me a basic one that has like a basic brand, like we're
Charlie Moore.
We're
No.
for the.
That's a basic brand. I mean,
we're for the children.
I mean, no, just like what brand? When I say what brand do you love, what comes to mind? Your favorite brand. Company.
Starbucks.
Okay, Starbucks.
Starbies.
We do. But side note, we like
3 times a day.
Yeah, like a lot. People like when I look at my budget, there's like a lot of money going to Starbucks.
It's okay. It's the
but it makes me happy. So the brand is it's a lot of components of your customers' affinity to you. That's called brand affinity. So the love that your customers have for you, the experience, it's really about the experience that organization is giving you. So at Starbucks, if you look at how they create the space inside the restaurants, they purposefully make it feel like a community where you've got chairs that are comfy enough that anybody can sit down anywhere. It's in neighborhoods that are at least, where people mostly congregate. The song selection, the smell specifically. So at Starbucks, when they originally tried to add in food, the original toasters made the place smell like a food place, and they hated it. So they made sure that those microwaves are specifically built for Starbucks so that when it heats up a sandwich, it doesn't put off a big cheddar smell because they want you to smell the coffee first. And so that's like this whole sensory experience.
Stuff I would never think of.
Yeah, it's this whole sensory experience. And when you go into there, you get greeted like when you first walk into Starbucks within the first 1 second. Hi, welcome to Starbucks. That's on purpose because they want you to feel like you're part of their neighborhood, their community, their space. And that's what they do every single time. And if you look too, at Starbucks, the cafe tables, they have 2 chairs and they're small enough so that if you were to sit at a table by yourself, you wouldn't feel awkward because the table is small enough that you're just sitting by yourself enjoying a cup of coffee, and that's okay.
And they purposely do that?
Oh, purposefully. Yeah, absolutely. Everything in a store is purposefully done to create that brand experience that you have and that they want you to have. Same thing with Chick-fil-A. What's the first word that comes around with Chick-fil-A?
Hi, gay.
I mean, we love Chick-fil-A. It's got a good freaking chicken sandwich, and it's just a chicken sandwich. But every time you go there, you are greeted with a smile, and there's a very specific way they ask you what you want to order. It's not what do you want, you order, whatever. It's how may I serve you?
And it was my pleasure.
Yeah, and it was my pleasure, and that's on purpose because they want you to feel that you're being taken care of, and it's a bigger dining experience than just a chicken sandwich. And so yeah, every single touch point, that's what a brand, that's what the brand is trying to create, is an experience that you remember and keep coming back to.
This is all new information to me. Because, like, honestly, I thought brand was, like, just what the company believes in behind the scenes.
It's kind part of it.
Yeah, but I didn't know, like, it was, like, the whole experience that you're getting from that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, the messaging, the mission and pillars, all that stuff is part of building a solid brand. I mean, if you look at Disney, global brand, everybody knows what Disney is.
Todd's a Disney freak, by the way.
Of course. I was sat in front of
a Disney adult. It's a cult.
It's not a cult. You're just jealous because I know more about Disney trivia than you do. But yeah, I mean, Disney, same thing, brand. BMW, luxury. Yeah, I mean, it's Whataburger here in Texas.
I got my Whataburger Yeti next to me.
But like, yeah, so it's definitely about an experience and to create loyal customers every time.
Okay, so that brings me to my next one. Because like when we were talking about the economy, it helps the economy. When we were talking about the economy, what aspects or events in the world would affect marketing and how? Like, because I know I always hear you say, like, marketing is the first to hire, first to fire.
It is, yeah. First to hire, first to fire.
When what's it called? A recession. Mm-hmm. When there's a recession, does that affect how people do marketing?
It doesn't. Yes and no. So when we say marketing is the first to hire, first to fire, when a company comes out of their like seed stage or series A and they really need to grow the company, the first people they're going to hire besides their, core people is a marketing engine to make that, to advertise and promote. But in most companies, the marketing budget takes up the bulk of the entire company budget. So that's why it's the first to fire in a downturn, because they need to take that money back, and marketing always has a huge chunk of it. So yeah, like if there's a recession, most companies will hold their dollars, because they don't know what's going to happen. Consumer spending goes down. So it's wise to hold the dollars as best you can without harming the business. So like, for example, when the pandemic hit, there were no events. And what that did to the companies was, of course, they couldn't invest in events. So those local economies didn't get any boost from the money that would come in from tourism to that space for the event. And then they had to let people go because, you don't have any events to run, so you don't need a person to run an event. But then on the company side, events are a huge lead generator. So basically lead is a name, a contact, an email address. So when you take away those events, it's a huge dip in lead generation. So your revenue can be impacted because you don't have enough leads for sales to follow up on. So yeah, it's a big thing. So companies, they will approach their marketing differently. So they'll begin to kind of pull down like any digital spend, and they'll focus on channels that they know actually work, and they won't experiment as much because they don't want to spend that money, and they probably don't have that money to spend given the economy.
So like Starbucks is an example. If we were to hit a recession, would they still like create that environment to like kind of boost nostalgia, I guess? Or...
Well, that brand they will always stay true to their brand experience.
Brand is like, that's concrete. That's always going to be what you're going to get.
Yeah, but what they'll probably see is people they may spend less at Starbucks because a $6 cup of coffee may be, hard to swing. But for those loyal customers, they'll keep coming back. But they have to entice them to come back. There was a program where it was like a happy hour, bring a friend, and you get a free cup of coffee or something like that, I think at one point.
For who?
I think it wasn't anytime recently. when they had to, people were pulling back on their dollars. I mean, you'll definitely see it in the tech space because tech investors will not invest when they see a recession. They'll hold on to the money, and companies won't invest in new technologies.
Yeah.
So they just hold it. So yeah, it's a definite blow to the marketing space.
I mean, it makes sense.
I know, I'm pretty good at making sense.
pretty good at brochures.
Yeah, I like to make up shit. No. So yeah. So what do I do, Charlie?
You not only decide the colors that go on the brochures or / billboards.
Yeah.
You also.
Y'all, he is
what do you do, Todd?
Grabbing straws to figure out what the hell I just told him I did.
So
here's a prime example. That means I'm not explaining the story well enough. If you can't tell me what I do quickly, that means I'm not doing a very good job of telling you what I can do.
Sounds like a you problem.
I know. Just remember, I influence your buying behavior. That's it.
Yeah.
I influence your buying
You
behavior.
prey upon my impulse buying behaviors.
Yeah.
And know that red makes me excited and makes me want to buy things.
Well, I didn't know that. But...
Me neither. All right, so tell me something that nobody would ever guess about what you do. Besides events, because I had no idea events were part of marketing. Like, I literally thought you wrote articles and stuff like that.
Part of it, but no, it's more than that. I think what people probably may not truly understand about marketing is it is very much an art and a science. So the amount of data that I as a marketer see really does inform my strategies to say where I spend the money or what channel is working the best for a certain type of goal to be met. But there's so much data, and a lot of it, you just can't use because it's either bad data or there's just so much of it you can't go through it all, but you get a quick picture. But yeah, so there's an art, there's a science to it based on data, and then there's an art where it is about experience. You can't really measure the experience. Of course, there's marketers who are going to say, well, you can do the NPS score and you can do a customer satisfaction. Sure, that's all well and good. Mm-hmm. But, the experience is an art form. The experience you're giving them with that email campaign or with that in-store experience or with whatever, that will last longer with them than just, numbers based on data. So that's what I think people probably, like you thought I just did advertisements and brochures. But I do a lot more than that. So
yeah, it sounds like it. Like, I really do think like there is a psychology behind like what makes people buy things. And
yeah,
I mean, like all the stuff you told me about Starbucks, I didn't know that was a thing, because I love the atmosphere at Starbucks. I love walking into Apple and it being like,
oh yeah,
the Kardashians' home. Like,
everything's very clean, very crisp.
Yeah,
but like even like Pixar. Talk about psychology. They will make a movie and they have a full research lab to understand people's emotions. Because if you look at a Pixar movie, they always have some type of emotional element that truly, truly gets in with the audience. Like Inside Out. It was about feelings, anger, depression, sad, joy, whatever. But they look at the brain and decide like, oh, this really does attach into their psyche and it really lets them to relate. So there's a very big science to all of this.
So in closing, your definition of what you do, your definition of marketing.
I make you spend your money on things I want you to spend it on. Yeah, that's probably it. And creating memorable, experiences from a product standpoint or a company standpoint. That's what I would say. Is that really mean or is that off?
No, that's like that's
now
way more in depth
like,
than I would have been. I'm like, I decide how you spend your money.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I think I do.
Well, cool.
I guarantee you my mom and dad still won't know what I do after they listen to this.
Probably not.
And I bet you $5,000 you won't either. But that's okay.
I won't either. My parents won't either. So
yeah, most people don't.
We're good. We're good.
Well, there you go. I told you about it. Told you about my job, my career.
Thanks for doing our
You know what's
first.
crazy? I've been doing marketing communications for almost 17 years.
Ew. I haven't even been alive 17 years. Just kidding.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Charles. Thanks for pointing the age gap out. But that's what's crazy. 17 years doing this?
That is crazy.
Can't imagine. Anyways, another time for that story.
Well, thanks, babe, for doing our first episode of Tell Me Bout It.
Yeah.
We have a lot of ideas in mind for you guys, and we would love to hear ideas from you if you have any ideas. Just email us. We have an email, so we're like official.
Yeah. What's the email?
The email is tellmeboutit, BOUT.
So no A.
Yeah, no A, not about or a boat. It's just bout. Tell me bout it pod at gmail.com, and send us any suggestions or anything you have of things that you want us to cover.
Or maybe you have an interesting job or a thing that you want to be like, hey, come interview me.
And we will.
Yeah.
Don't threaten us. It's a good time.
Fly out there and figure out who you are.
Fly. Must be within 5 mile radius.
Yeah. But we have a really cool, we've got like several planned, like one.
Don't say it.
Huh?
Don't say what it is.
I won't, but I'll give you all a hint, a teaser. It has to do with water, and it has to do
water and fire.
And fire. Yeah, that's great.
Water, fire, death. There's your clue. Do with that what you will.
Yeah. So anyways, that was Tell Me About It. We hope you learned something. And yes, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next time right here on
Tell Me Bout It.
Okay, bye.
Bye.